Well, yeah, I guess if there was a heaven and hell, I'd rather go to hell because heaven just seems kind of gay.
Cheers.
Kingdom's Disdained by Morbid Angel is the first album these death metal legends have released in over 6 years, or maybe under 6 years, or maybe exactly 6 years, I don't know, just 6 years. And you can imagine the hype that this has generated across the globe, in metal scenes, and talks between metalheads, and fucking people, just people. I don't know. So, what we want to know is, did it live up to this hype? I don't know. I don't know if it lived up to the hype. It's difficult to say, because this album was an amazing comeback compared to Illid, and I'm not going to go into that because everyone's heard about Illid and how shit it is, but whatever. Compared to that, this now is a huge step in the right direction for Morbid, and it is so nice and just refreshing to hear Trey and Steve working together again to make something Morbid. I mean, they've had all these member changes and stuff, and the new members, I mean, Scotty, the drummer, great guy, great drummer. Really glad to have him playing on this album, and I'll get back to that in a minute. Yeah, I mean, hype-wise, it feels good. It feels good to have these guys back like this, but musically, there's an issue. So, Eric Rutan, he produced this album, and he produced the last Cannibal album as well that I reviewed in my last video. And I love Eric Rutan. He's an absolute beast. He's the kind of guy that you check if he's under your bed at night. Like, kids have nightmares about him. He's an absolute monster.
Get the fuck up here! We ain't eternal, and we're gonna kick some fucking ass!
He's just a monster on stage, and he's produced some amazing sounding records, some of my favorite records. He's just an awesome guy. But what happened this year, man, was his like studio monitors with the treble settings just broken and turned all the way down permanently or some shit. Could he not tell how much bass was coming through on Kingdom's Disdain? And the drums, is he mad? They are so fucking loud. Literally, like, Trey is just this thing in the side of the album, and Scotty and Steve are just like in your face. But luckily they did do amazing performances. Scotty's drumming was incredibly intense the whole way through. Very good drumming. Steve's vocals as well. He still got it, man. He had a really good voice there. Really great shit coming from Steve. But yeah, Trey, he was just I don't know. He just didn't feel present on this album. And I mean, as a guitarist, Trey is such an inspiration, and I didn't there's nothing on this album that made me think, wow, this guy's great, you know. It was just, yay, Morbid's Morbid again, and that was it, to be honest with you. I mean, there are hints of amazing riffs, you know, but it's nothing that the Trey couldn't have done it in his sleep, I feel. You know, the intro to, I mean, the first song on the album, Piles of Little Arms, that intro riff, it's just so heavy. It's so heavy, it's so groovy, and I love it. But then the drums come in and it's just all... I mean, I'm saying the same shit as I was saying about the Cannibal album. This is because of Eric, you know. And I'm not trying to throw all the blame at Eric, because these boys, I mean, they shouldn't have heard this shit and been like, yeah, let's put it out sounding like that. Because it does sound like arse. I'm in a Facebook group called Morbid Angel Riff Posting. Join that shit. And there's like 4 people there, or maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, and there was only like 2 or 3, or maybe even 1. But I've seen multiple posts of people remixing this album, and it already sounds better. And I mean, if these dudes can remix it in like a day, then Eric should be able to spot that, you know, I mean, come on, he's made way better sounding albums than this. The drums just overpower Trey so much. All we can hear is freaking Steve and Scotty. Where's the banging tracks on this one as well, man? Where are the classics? There's gonna be no classics on this album. I can't imagine someone, you know, in 20 years being like, oh yeah, Piles of Little Arms, that shit was one of the best songs of the century, you know, like, there's nothing on here that's like, wow. But you can go back onto every single Morbid album before this, apart from Illid, and find a track that is amazing, that is a contender for one of the best death metal songs of all time. But there's nothing here that blew me away. There was one song that I thought was amazing, which is The Righteous Voice, I believe it's called, which is a great song. So it starts with these really chuggy, sort of destructive riffs, and we've definitely heard riffs like that before. It was nothing new, but it was nice to hear coming from Morbid, because I know how sort of original that is to those guys. So that was cool. And then it comes in and with the blast beat, and it was the first time I properly banged my head uncontrollably listening to this album. I mean, Piles of Little Arms did get me kind of going a bit in the beginning, and then it just kind of dies off as I'm trying to like figure out what the fuck is going on. But this song actually got me pretty good. I don't want to make this too much of a long one, because a lot of the stuff I'm going to say is really very similar to the Cannibal album that I reviewed. And I do put it down to production, like I've said. But it gives me hopes. This album gives me hopes that Morbid are going to come back with a fresh album with better production that will blow my socks off and have me listening to it over and over and over and over again. Because I've really, really come to love Morbid in the last few months. I should be wearing my Morbid shirt right now. I don't know why I'm not. It's just, I can't be bothered to put it on. I'll give you some Warbringer instead. I like this album because it gives me hope. I don't like this album because I think it's a musical milestone for Morbid. It's not. It's a milestone, I guess, because it's a return from a shitty era, but it's not a musical trophy. It's not a gem. It's just a thing that reminds me that Morbid Angel still live and that Trey is still alive. Which is disappointing. It is disappointing to say. I have a love-hate relationship with this album. I don't listen to it too much, but when it comes on, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, Morbid Angel sort of thing. Yeah, they're back, but then I kind of skip to the next album or some shit because I can't get into this one too much. So to wrap this up, I don't even know if I did a star rating on my last one. If I had to give this album a review, I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. Because, actually, fuck that. I'm gonna do this shit out of 10, because then it's more accurate. Nah, fuck it, I'm doing that out of 100. So, out of 100, I'd give this thing like a, I don't know, like a 50, a strong 50. You know, because the 50% that we have is made up of happiness that they're back to how they were, and huge hopes for the future. And then the 50% we've lost is basically all of Trey's guitar work on this album. So yeah, that's my review for Morbid Angel, Kingdoms Disdained. I hope you liked it. I hope you give it a big fat thumbs up, share it with your mates, see what they think. If you have any comments, anything I missed out, just leave it down in the comments, and I will read them, I will respond, and yeah, thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Kingdoms Disdained by Morbid Angel is the first death metal album. Oh shit.